Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're tackling one of America's most iconic presidents, Theodore Roosevelt. You know the guy I mean, right? The Rough
hmm
Rider. The whole speak softly and carry a big stick thing.
Oh, yeah. TR's image is larger than life.
Definitely. But what if I told you that to really get TR, you gotta understand the women who shaped him?
It's true. TR's story is often told as this tale of rugged individualism, but there's a whole other side to it.
Exactly. And that's what we're gonna uncover in this deep dive. Think of it like unlocking a secret level in a video game. We're going beyond the typical biography. We're diving deep into the lives of TR's mother, his sisters, his wives. We're about to see TR in a whole new light.
It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at history.
Totally. And our guide for this journey, Edward O'Keefe's book, The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt, The Women Who Created a President.
O'Keefe makes a really compelling case that these women weren't just background figures. They were absolutely central to TR's development, both as a person and as a leader.
Okay, so let's start with the powerhouse herself, Martha Mitty Roosevelt, TR's mother. O'Keefe really emphasizes that Mitty was anything but your typical Victorian-era mom.
Oh, yeah. Far from it. Picture this. It's the Civil War. Mitty's a Southern woman from a Confederate family living in New York City. Her husband's often away and she's raising 4 kids, including a young, sickly Theodore.
I can't even imagine the strength that must have taken, especially during such a divided time in American history.
Right. And think about the dynamics there. Mitty's navigating opposing political views within her own family while raising her kids in the middle of a national crisis.
It makes you wonder how those experiences shaped her parenting and ultimately TR's worldview.
For sure. And O'Keefe gives us this great little detail about Mitty. Her brother described her as a black-haired, lively lassie with a ready tongue.
Sounds familiar.
Right. Like TR inherited his dynamism straight from his mama.
I love it. But it wasn't just personality, right?
Yeah.
Mitty also modeled for TR how to navigate disagreement respectfully.
Oh, absolutely. Being able to see different perspectives, find common ground.
And you can see that same skill in TR's approach to politics later on, right? He was a master at compromise and building coalitions, even with his opponents.
Exactly. A skill that served him well throughout his whole life, from navigating those political battles all the way to mediating international disputes.
Okay, so takeaway number 1. Mitty Roosevelt was a total boss. Her influence on TR can't be overstated.
Totally agree. It highlights how the seeds of leadership, they're often planted early on in those seemingly ordinary moments of family life.
Now, every family's got its dynamics, and the Roosevelts were no different. TR had 2 sisters, Bamie and Connie, who played key roles in his life.
Almost like his personal A-team, each with their own set of skills and influence. You had Bamie, the political strategist, the behind-the-scenes operator.
I'm picturing her like a 19th century Olivia Pope, fixing situations before they even hit the papers.
Huh. Love it. And it's not far off, honestly. When TR was considering a run for governor, Bamie was instrumental. She was connecting with key political figures, navigating that whole complex world of New York politics. She saved his career multiple times, actually.
Wow, that's incredible, the power of behind-the-scenes influence. And then there's Connie, who seems like a complete opposite, like the PR mastermind, right?
Spot on. Connie understood the power of public image way before that was even a term. She was all about shaping the narrative, making sure the public saw this relatable, even fun side to this powerful family. Presidential pony rides, pet badgers at the White House. That was all Connie.
It's like she invented going viral before social media even existed.
Right, and it worked. People loved the Roosevelts, and that popularity translated into political capital for TR.
It's amazing how they both played such vital roles in TR's success. And get this, Eleanor Roosevelt, TR's niece, believed that Bamie could have been president herself.
Wow, that's a fascinating thought. Makes you think about societal expectations, right? How gender roles can really limit potential.
Okay, so we've talked about his mother, his powerhouse sisters. Now things are about to get even more intense because we're moving into the realm of romance. TR's love life is basically a story in 3 parts, almost Shakespearean in its drama.
It really is. You've got Alice, his first love, a whirlwind romance full of passion. Then immense tragedy strikes. You see this whole other side of TR, a man wrestling with profound loss.
And finally, Edith, a childhood friend who re-enters his life. She becomes his anchor, his partner, and eventually the first modern First Lady.
It's crazy how each of these women, though so different, played such crucial roles in his journey.
They really did. I mean, Alice brought him sunshine, youthful energy, and Edith offered the stability and deep understanding of who TR was at his core.
Right, different kinds of love, but equally important.
These women weren't just romantic interests. They were forces that shaped his personal and political development. And I'm really curious to explore that. Let's start with the whirlwind romance of TR and Alice Hathaway Lee.
So picture young TR, just a Harvard student. He meets Alice. She was a real catch, an athlete, a socialite, and everyone said bright and beautiful.
She sounds like everything TR was drawn to: vivacious, independent, full of life.
Totally. They married in 1880, seemingly with the world at their feet.
Didn't TR write about women's equality in his senior thesis at Harvard?
He did. Advocated for property ownership for women, the right to vote, even keeping their maiden names. Pretty radical stuff for the time.
Wow, talk about ahead of his time. That makes their love story even more compelling.
And that's something O'Keefe really highlights, how progressive TR's views were on women's rights, especially for a man of his generation. He truly believed in their intellectual and social equality.
So we've got this young couple. They're in love. TR is starting his political career. It's like a fairy tale, right? But then comes February 14th, 1884. And that date changes everything.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day, and Alice has just given birth to their daughter, also named Alice. Tragically, she develops complications. At the same time, TR's mother, Mitty, is battling typhoid fever.
Oh, wow. To experience such joy and sorrow all at once, it's hard to even imagine.
It is a devastating blow for TR. Within hours, he loses both his wife and his mother. It's utterly devastating for him.
He was only 25 years old. I can't fathom dealing with that kind of loss so young.
It was a turning point for him, no doubt. TR writes in his diary that day, "The light has gone out of my life." He actually crosses the date out.
Man, that's just gut-wrenching.
It is. But even in his grief, you see the influence of those early years with Mitty. That strength to carry on despite the pain.
Like that resilience she instilled in him as a child just kicks in during the darkest moment of his life.
Exactly. He throws himself into work, ranching, anything to distract himself from the pain. And of course, he has his sisters to lean on. Bammy especially. She steps up to care for his baby daughter while he's trying to piece his life back together.
Wow, it's a real testament to the power of family.
It is.
It's amazing how, even in his darkest hour, the lessons he learned from these incredible women helped him find the strength to move forward.
You really see how they shaped who he became.
Absolutely. And it's from this place of profound loss that the next chapter of TR's love story begins, with Edith.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the life of Theodore Roosevelt. We're uncovering the hidden figures behind this American icon, the women who shaped his destiny.
And in this part, we're picking up where we left off with Edith Caro, TR's childhood friend and future First Lady.
So we know that TR is grappling with immense loss, right? Losing both his wife and his mother on the same day. And then Edith enters the picture. But she wasn't some new character in his life, right?
Not at all. They actually grew up together. Their families were close, spent a lot of time together as kids.
But it wasn't like some childhood sweetheart situation or anything.
Not quite. Their paths diverged as they got older. TR went off to Harvard, the whole romance with Alice, starting his political career. Edith, on the other hand, her family faced some hard times financially, and she was always much more reserved than Alice.
It's interesting to think about them as young people, almost like they were living in two different worlds. You could say that. And yet, fate brings them back together after Alice's death. Although it wasn't immediate. TR was hesitant.
Understandably. I can't imagine trying to move on after such a huge loss, let alone with someone so connected to your past.
Yeah. He didn't want to dishonor Alice's memory. But there was something there, a shared history, this understanding that went beyond words. And slowly, their relationship started to blossom.
It wasn't that same passionate, youthful love he had with Alice, was it?
No.
Yeah.
It was different, much more mature, grounded, more like a partnership built on shared experience and mutual respect.
What's fascinating is that Edith wasn't trying to be another Alice. She brought her own strengths to their relationship.
Oh, for sure. She was smart, incredibly organized, and get this, had a keen understanding of politics.
Sounds like she provided the stability and grounding TR desperately needed at that point in his life.
She did. She was his anchor, confidante, his partner in facing the challenges ahead. And, she wasn't afraid to challenge him, offer her opinions and insights.
Kind of like his personal strategist. Always there to offer a different perspective.
Exactly. And remember, TR still had those big ambitions. He wanted to make a difference. And Edith was right there beside him, supporting his every move.
And those ambitions eventually led him to the White House kind of unexpectedly, right? When McKinley was assassinated in 1901, TR, the vice president, was suddenly thrust into the presidency.
Yeah, talk about trial by fire.
And this is where Edith really comes into her own. It wasn't enough for her to just be the president's wife. She takes charge of the role of first lady.
She got it.
Yeah.
The power, the influence that came with the position. And she used it.
A modern woman in so many ways. First lady to have a social secretary, really managed the White House staff, took control of the public image of the presidency.
Oversaw renovations, hosted events, even started that whole tradition of the White House Rose Garden.
Amazing what she accomplished, all while raising 6 kids.
And don't forget, she was doing all this while still being TR's most trusted advisor. Their partnership was really something special.
You know, TR famously said, "Whenever I go against her judgment, I regret it."
Exactly. He really valued her opinion, even when they disagreed. And it had a ripple effect, too, you know. Their niece, Eleanor Roosevelt, later said she learned a lot about marriage and partnership from watching Edith and TR.
It's fascinating how these strong women, these partnerships, keep popping up throughout American history.
It makes you wonder how things might have been different without them, doesn't it?
Now, we've been talking about these incredible women, their influence on TR's life, but there's this other fascinating element to O'Keeffe's book I wanted to touch on, the letters.
Oh, yeah, those letters. They give you such a personal glimpse into his relationships.
And I mean, these aren't just formal things. These are heartfelt letters full of thoughts, feelings, even everyday struggles.
That's what I love about them. They remind us that these figures, they were real people experiencing life just like we do.
It's easy to get caught up in those big historical moments, but the letters bring this sense of humanity to the story.
Right. And they make you think about how we communicate today, too. All those emails and texts.
Exactly. I mean, imagine taking the time to sit down and write a letter, choosing your words carefully, really pouring your heart out onto the page.
Makes you wonder if we've lost something in this age of instant communication. Traded depth of connection for speed and efficiency.
It's a question worth pondering for sure. Because, those letters, those handwritten words, they connect us to the past in a way that no text message or email ever could.
They really do. They're like a window into a different time, a different way of relating to each other.
And in TR's case, they reveal the depth of those relationships with the women who shaped him.
It's a good reminder that even in a world dominated by men, women were there, wielding influence, shaping opinions, and ultimately making history.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive. We've journeyed through TR's early life, his family, the impact of losing Alice, and ultimately his marriage to Edith.
We've seen how these women, in their own unique ways, helped TR become the man he was.
But the story doesn't end there. In our final part, we're going to explore how those influences played out on a national scale as TR takes on the presidency and becomes one of America's most impactful presidents. All right, welcome back to our deep dive. We've been talking about Theodore Roosevelt, the man, the myth, the legend, but more importantly, we've been talking about the women who helped shape him.
And now we're going to see how all of that comes together as TR steps onto the national stage as president.
Because it's one thing to understand TR, the man, but we really want to see how those personal experiences translate into TR, the president.
Exactly, because all those things we've been talking about, his upbringing, the tragedies, the relationships, all that goes with him into the Oval Office.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. It's the early 1900s. America's going through some massive changes. Industrialization, cities are booming, there's a lot of social and political unrest. It's a different world.
A time of huge opportunity, but also huge inequality. And TR, despite his privileged background, he has this deep sense of fairness. He believed in a square deal for everyone, no matter who you were or where you came from.
We hear that phrase a lot, square deal. But what did it actually mean in practice?
It meant busting trusts, protecting consumers, conserving natural resources, really setting the stage for the whole progressive movement that would reshape American politics for decades.
That's pretty radical stuff for the time. I mean, he was going up against some seriously powerful interests.
He was. And it wasn't easy. But, TR never wanted to back down from a fight. He was a fighter. And he truly believed in what he was doing.
And this is where I think those influences from the women in his life really shine through. We talked about how Mitty modeled respectful disagreement. Well, TR was known for being a negotiator, finding common ground, even with his opponents.
He got it. Progress requires compromise. You can't just force your way to get what you want. It's a lesson, honestly, that we could all use a little more of these days.
Right. It makes you wonder if those early experiences with Mitty, with her family divided by the Civil War, if that shaped how he approached politics.
It's very possible. He saw firsthand what happens when things get too polarized. And he wanted to bridge those gaps, bring people together.
And then there's Bamie and her political skills. She taught him all about building relationships, understanding power dynamics.
Right. And those skills were essential in the White House. He could navigate those political alliances, build coalitions, push his agenda forward. TR had charisma, but he also understood how to work the system.
It's like he could connect with people on a personal level, make them feel like they were part of something bigger.
He was a master of it. And then, of course, there's Connie and her PR genius.
Oh, yeah. With his personality, his love of the spotlight, TR was practically made for public relations.
He knew how to tell a story, how to capture the public's imagination. He understood the media in a way that no president before him really had.
Like he was the OG influencer.
Huh. You'd say that. And his legacy in that sense is undeniable. Every president since has had to deal with those same pressures, the media, public opinion, the need to connect with voters on a personal level.
And it wasn't just about image with him. TR really believed in transparency and using the media to communicate directly with the American people.
He did. All right, we've talked about Mitty, Bamie, Connie. We can't forget Edith.
Of course, she was so much more than just the first lady. She was TR's partner in every sense of the word, his confidant.
And she used her platform to advocate for the things she believed in, right? Education, healthcare, the arts.
And she also managed that whole chaotic White House life, kept TR grounded amidst all the craziness of the presidency.
Truly a force behind the throne. That steady influence helping him achieve his goals.
So after all this, do you see TR differently? Do you appreciate the complexity of what made him the leader he was? All those influences.
I think it's a reminder that even the most powerful figures are shaped by the people in their lives, by the relationships they have, the lessons they learn.
History's made by people, not just lone heroes.
Exactly. And when we understand those stories, those connections, we understand history on a much deeper level.
It makes those larger-than-life figures like TR feel more human, a little more relatable.
I agree. It also reminds us that leadership isn't just about power. It's about empathy, about connecting with people, understanding their needs.
Well said. If anyone wants to dive deeper into TR's life and the women who shaped him, definitely check out Edward O'Keefe's book, The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt. It's a fascinating read.
It really is.
And that about wraps up our deep dive into the life of Theodore Roosevelt, the man, the president, and the incredible women who helped make him who he was.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep questioning the stories we tell ourselves about the past.